Thank you very much for the kind invitation. Let me share my screen with the presentation I'm going to do today, which is an extremely interesting topic and which is looking at global trade in agri-food commodities, circular economy, in agriculture and policies and institutions for evergreen revolution. I hope you can see my slides properly. Perfect. So let me start first with what we're going to touch today. So the presentation will cover 5 key things. One, I will start with evolving trends in global agri-food systems trade. I will then move to India's growing role in agri-food markets. Following that, I will discuss recent shifts towards circular economy principles and highlight FAO's contribution to the circular economy agenda, and I will conclude with some final remarks on the challenges faced and opportunities in agricultural transformation. Today's discussion takes place against a backdrop of profound transformation in the global agri-food system trade landscape. But since the early 2000s, globalization and trade have expanded significantly, as you can see in the graph. Food and agricultural trade nearly quintupled, rising from $400 billion in 2000 to 2.1 trillion in 2023. The calories carried through food trade more than doubled between 2000 and 2021, reaching close to 5,000 trillion kilocalories. Adjusted for population growth, is translating to an increase from 930 kilocalories per person per day into 2,000 to more than 1,600 kilocalories in 2021. So a significant increase. We just launched also what we call the State of Food and Agriculture, where we look at the significant role that trade has also on nutrition and how it will help to increase diversity of the diets, but at the same time how we need to be careful in certain contexts which are more import dependent to minimize problems of overweight and obesity. Now, out of the total production of wheat, 25% is traded across borders. And just to give you an example on one commodity, and this is not counting intra-trade between the EU. Largest exporter are the Russian Federation, the European Union, Australia, Canada, and the United States of America. The largest importers are Egypt, Indonesia, Turkey, China, and Algeria. Similarly, for coarse grains, out of which 3/4 is maize, out of the total production of maize, 15% is traded across borders. Again, not counting the EU trade. Largest exporters are the United States of America, Brazil, Argentina, and Ukraine. And the largest importers are Mexico and the European Union, Japan, and China. For wheat, in 2025-2026, the latest aggregation indicates that growth in wheat production is expected to outpace and increase utilization, leading to a slight recovery of global wheat stocks, and global wheat trade is forecast to partially recover from the previous season decline, largely driven by anticipated rebound in import demand from Asia. For global coarse grains, global coarse grain production in 2025 is forecast at 1,262 million tons, up 3.5% from the previous year. And global coarse grains utilization in 2025-2026 is expected to increase by 0.3% from 2024 and 2025. And forecasts for global coarse grain stocks are set to increase by 3.6% in 2025-2026. Global trade in coarse grains in 2025-2026 is forecast to decline by 0.6% from 24 to 25 level, and global maize trade in 2025-2026 is expected to decrease by 1.9% to 182.8 million tons. International trade in barley and sorghum is projected to rise in 2025 to 2026 by 2.8% and 15.3% respectively. And we can go ahead and look at the different commodities, but what I wanted to show is how important trade is in the world and how important it is for basic staples, but also for high-value commodities. Now, the establishment of the World Trade Organization in 1995, along with the rise of the regional trade agreements, the RTAs, play a critical role in enabling this expansion. WTO rules have contributed to a more predictable and rules-based environment for trade, also impacting on the network of food trade. Moreover, supply chains have also become more sophisticated, integrating green and digital technologies, including innovations such as artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things. These technologies, along with big data analytics, are playing a crucial role in improving transparency and efficiency while reducing the cost of cross-border agri-food trade. As a result, compared to 1995, countries trade more with each other, and participation from low and middle income economies has grown. Especially, FAO analysis show that rising prominence of China in global agricultural markets, as you can see later. But it's important also to understand that we are talking of global value chains. That means that they cross at least 3 borders. And when we look at the data today, it's amazing to see how we can even trace from where the food comes from and where the different elements of processed products in the agri-food system, the agri-food industry, are decomposed through traceability, through artificial intelligence, and through blockchain technology. So these allow us to have enormous tools to be able to track and to look at the evolution of trade and to see how important this will be when we look especially at bioeconomy and when we look at the topic of this presentation. So circular economy transforms agri-food systems by minimizing waste, enhancing resource efficiency, increasing resilience and productivity, and supporting environmental and social sustainability. The core behind this concept is to assure that we have good food for all for today and tomorrow, in the sense that we want to increase efficiency, but we also want to reduce the effects over our environment and assure sustainability, minimizing losses and of course, waste. Core practices include bio-based materials, circular agri-tech, zero-waste strategies, refurbishing and remanufacturing digital products, passports, and upcycling and reuse. We need to look at this very carefully, and we need to understand what are the challenges behind and what we need to do to be able to assure that this is done in the most efficient way. As you can see in this slide, circular economy in agriculture and policies, we see that trade for agri-food byproducts and residues, like for example, soy byproducts of animal feed, enables resource valorization across borders, aligning with circular economy goals, but it could also replicate existing trade imbalances and environmental risk, and that's what we need to minimize. Second, circular bioeconomy model is shifting from linear take-make waste systems to one where agri-food waste is recycled, reused, or recovered, reducing demand for green inputs while supporting energy and material goods. Third, trade enhances sustainability through exporting agricultural residues allows regions with processing capabilities to convert them into higher value products, like for example bioenergy or animal feed, aligning economic incentives with the circular practice. The implications, of course, as a cross-border flows of agri-food residues can support regional resource efficiency and waste reduction. And policymakers and businesses can leverage trade to build more resilient and circular agri-food systems. But as in any case, we have challenges and risks. And there are 3 basically. First, the imbalance of trade flows. Second, limited circularity uptake. And third, a need for robust monitoring. In terms of the imbalances of trade flows, high-income countries often export agri-food-related waste or packaging to lower-income countries lacking adequate facilities. And this can result in an improper disposal or environmental harm, undermining circularity. In terms of limited circularity uptake, for example, across 29 European countries, the implementation of circular business models in the agri-food sector remains slow, hampered by weak policy frameworks, scarce infrastructure, and lack of integrated strategies. Third, regarding the need for robust monitoring, we need effective transition towards circular agri-food system supply chains, which requires a comprehensive framework with clear metrics spanning economic, environmental, and social dimensions. Here I just try to bring these topics in a graphic, in a figure. So essentially, we know that we can create byproducts and waste streams from crop residues, from food waste, and from packaging waste that can be processed and have a valorization in the international trade market, and that's where things operate efficiently. But also we know that this could create certain risks without a proper governance, like exporting of unmanaged food waste to low-income countries, leakage of recyclable materials due to weak tracking, and inequitable redistribution of circular value. So it's central that we have a mechanism of support systems through policies and regulations, monitoring frameworks, and infrastructure innovation to make the circular economy in agriculture and in the agri-food systems to work properly. FAO is dedicated to helping governments create policy frameworks to do and to achieve this goal. And these policy frameworks embed circularity within agri-food systems, ensuring sustainability across the entire food production and consumption cycle. FAO plays a key role in mainstreaming circularity in national agri-food policy through capacity building, supporting policy coherence across agriculture, trade, climate, facilitating multi-stakeholder platforms like the CFS or the HLPE, and enabling South-South cooperation on technology and policy transfer. In addition, we advise on extended producer responsibility, promoting subsidies for regenerative farming and bio-inputs, and assisting countries in setting recycling and organic waste targets. FAO also provides guidance on eco-design standards for agricultural products and facilitate the adoption of carbon and nutrient accounting tools to optimize environmental impact. For example, one of the most known tools of FAO for carbon accounting is the Exact tool, which basically today measures all the carbon accounting for all the products coming from international financial organizations. In addition, FAO fosters public-private partnerships to scale innovation solutions that drive sustainability, ensuring long-term resilience and circularity in agriculture. Effective transitions to a circular economy in agriculture require, as I mentioned before, policy coherence across various sectors: agriculture, trade, environment, and climate. FAO is working closely with governments to align national frameworks with international goals, particularly sustainable development goals. In the case of SDG 2, ending hunger, ensuring food security through sustainable agricultural practice; SDG 12, responsible production and consumption, promoting sustainable agricultural systems that minimize waste; and SDG 13, climate action, supporting agricultural role in climate change, mitigating, and adaptation. In line with the Paris Agreement, FAO encourages governments to integrate climate strategies into national climate action plans, particularly in agri-food systems. And this helps countries to reduce their agricultural emissions while building resilience. FAO also supports Coronivia joint work on agriculture, which brings agriculture to the forefront of climate policy dialogues, advocating for sustainable practice within climate discussion. A strong institutional capacity is essential, as I showed before in the graph. And it is essential for the success of the green revolution. It enables agriculture to remain productive and sustainable without harming the environment or excluding the smallholder farmers from the benefits, and without, of course, affecting the most vulnerable countries. FAO has been supporting national ministries by designing science-based trade and SPS, sanitary and phytosanitary policies, ensuring that agricultural products meet safety standards for both domestic and international markets. Building the regulatory framework and inspection capacities, strengthening national systems for SPSS compliance to guarantee safe and sustainable food systems. And enhancing digital readiness, supporting digital platforms like the FAO ITU e-agricultural strategy, which improve traceability, support digital value chains, and focuses inclusive participation in agricultural markets. To ensure effective governance, FAO strengthens inclusive governance platforms such as the Committee on World Food Security, CFS, which promotes science-based policy dialogues and facilitates meaningful engagement with a broad range of stakeholders. South-South and triangular cooperation is also a key area where FAO supports countries in sharing best practices and scaling up innovations. This includes everything from building sustainable trade pipelines to advancing circular agricultural systems. And here is where we need to keep accumulating evidence of what is working well, what are the necessary conditions of institutional governance, so that we can share across countries in the South, so that we can obtain the benefits of this type of technology. But one topic that is super important and which we normally don't really act on it seriously, and this is the issue of food loss and waste. Today, 13% of the global food supply of post-harvest losses in value chains before reaching consumers is lost. 19% of food is wasted in retail and by consumers, so losses go up to wholesale included. Waste goes from retail to the consumer. So in total, we're talking of a third of our production. And this could feed around 1.26 billion people, and also minimize greenhouse gas emissions already incurred. So a reduction of food loss and waste will reduce between 8 to 10% the greenhouse gas emissions. So food loss and waste plays an important role in the work of FAO to achieve security and fight climate change, and of course, in the concept and the topic that we're talking today. We need to understand not only the aggregate magnitude of food loss and waste, but we also need to understand where it occurs in the value chain. And we have developed two tools that all of you can access to. The first one is what we call the FLAPP, F-L-A-P-P, which is the Food Loss App, which is basically a tool that it took us more than 2 years to develop scientifically Finding a way to measure losses across the value chain in a simple way through self-reporting of farmers, but being sure that we get to this mechanism is similar to basically doing a census on food loss reduction, on food loss amounting. This tool is available. It's right now, you can download it as an app, but also you can immediately adapt it to the commodities of your country and basically selecting the attributes and the characteristics of the commodities we want to measure. This will help us not only to identify the magnitude of the losses, where they happen in the value chain, but it will also offer solutions, low-cost and high-cost solutions to the challenges that the farmer will report. I hope this can be scaled up because this will help us to crowdsource information and to have a better understanding to minimize a problem, which is extremely important to reduce, especially in a world today that we have around 673 million people in hunger. The second app is called OptiWaste. And OptiWaste is focusing on waste. Not only in restaurants, not only in resorts, not only where buffets are provided, also in the schools, in the school feeding programs, but also at the consumer level. Because it helps us to bring the awareness and the behavioral change that is also needed. We know most of the waste is happening at the retail level and also specifically at the household level. And that's where we need to start changing our behavior to be able to make a difference. So these are two specific scientific-based contributions that we're doing that we believe will help to achieve the goals that we're trying to achieve in this process. Addressing food loss and waste is central building a circular economy in agriculture, which improves efficiency, resilience, and sustainability throughout the agri-food value chain. There are clear impacts. We will have more high-value commodities available, which will improve the access to healthy diets. Today, 2.6 billion people don't have access to a healthy diet. Second, it will use our resources more efficiently, water, biodiversity, land, soil, and third, it will reduce emissions. The FAO Safe Food Initiative takes a holistic approach to food loss and waste, covering the entire journey from the production to consumption. It supports efforts in three critical areas: improve post-harvest handling and cold chains, which are crucial for reducing spoilage during the storage and transportation, strengthening data systems to track food loss and waste and measure progress, as I mentioned before, and policy and infrastructure development that creates supportive environmental for tracking waste. FAO promotes transformative waste to value technologies that return agricultural residues and food waste into valuable resources. Regenerative agriculture and circularity converge in the climate-smart agriculture approach, which is being promoted by FAO in collaboration with national governments. The climate-smart agriculture is a vital transitioning to sustainable farming systems that are both resilient to climate change and capable of reducing environmental impact. And that's where the smarters come. We are really targeting ways in which we can make farmers resilient with their commodities to climate, but also at the same time reducing environmental impact. So it's a targeted strategy. It's not a generic strategy. That's why we call it climate-smart agriculture. FAO plays a key role in supporting regenerative agricultural practices such as crop-livestock integration, which creates a more sustainable and efficient use of land, water, and resources, agroforestry, which increases biodiversity, improves soil health, and provides income diversification for farmers, organic soil amendments, which reduce reliance on chemical fertilizers, increase soil fertility, and enhance carbon sequestration, and especially reduce the waste in the use of fertilizers. Because we will know exactly with soil maps what is the mix of fertilizers that you need, given the plant that you have and the soil that you have. And that will increase substantially efficiency in the use of fertilizers. In India, FAO is also supporting the zero-budget nature farming and conservation agricultural models that promote soil health, biodiversity, and minimal chemical inputs. In conclusion, building a strong enabling environment is essential for the circular economy. Key challenges include poor waste management, poor loss management, fragmented supply chains, financing barriers for farmers, and weak institutions. Through enhanced management of losses and waste systems, more efficient supply chains through digital platforms, greater investments in circular agricultural practices, and a strongly incentivized institutional collaboration, governance, and institutionality to achieve also trade in this respect, to minimize the level of losses and waste, the circular economy and evergreen revolution can happen. Colleagues, let me finish by saying our main goal. What we are looking for is to have good food for all for today and tomorrow. And the circular economy and evergreen revolution is something that is a crucial element to assure that that what we produce today, that we provide the livelihood to people, can also happen tomorrow, because we will do it sustainable and trying to minimize losses and waste, and trying to assure that our biodiversity, our soils, our water, and our climate is taken care of. Thank you very much, and let me stop it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Maximo Torero, for a very comprehensive and analytical presentation. Generally, after lunch, people, but today we were discussing about money, and because of that, everybody was awakening. So that's a good thing. Thank you very much, because you covered